Welcome to this deep dive into the YouTube channel of Asha.
Yes, we're going to be exploring his ideas around us thinking, which means perfect personal growth, and really how to make sense of the world.
Exactly. We're drawing from a whole set of his video transcripts today.
And these transcripts, they cover quite a range, don't they? We've got the Kiev Perfect Club concept, how we react to new ideas, belief versus acceptance, foundational knowledge,
Right, the nature of perfect thinking itself.
and even how you might apply it day to day. It's quite a lot.
It really is. So our mission really is to pull out the key insights, the actionable ideas about personal development.
Yeah, understanding these different ways of looking at reality.
And maybe how to get past thought patterns that, might be holding you back, all based on these online discussions.
And it's interesting because they are YouTube transcripts. You get this very direct, almost unfiltered view of his thoughts evolving.
Yeah, and his interactions with his audience, too. It feels quite spontaneous.
It does. It's a unique way to look at these, well, pretty deep topics.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Where did this perfect thinking actually come from?
Well, one starting point mentioned is this Kiev Perfect Club.
Right.
It seems like a concept, maybe a space for people to discuss and analyze this whole worldview together.
And what was the sort of initial prompt for it?
Interestingly, he talks about a need for detoxification
Detoxification from what?
from something he calls vulgar Satanism. That's presented as a kind of first step.
Wow, okay, so clearing something negative out first.
Seems like it. Like deliberately moving away from certain influences before you can really embrace this other perspective.
Like, clearing the static.
Exactly. So you can tune into the news signal, so to speak.
That makes sense. And it's interesting how much weight he puts on analyzing your own reactions.
Yes. What attracts you? What repels you about these ideas?
Why is that internal feedback loop so important here?
Because I think the point isn't just to swallow a new doctrine whole. It's about seeing how this model fits or doesn't fit with your own experience. Observing those reactions tells you about your current beliefs.
So it's a self-assessment tool, really.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He's quite clear he's not handing down absolute truth, but offering a model, a lens for viewing the world.
A tool for understanding.
Yes.
Then there's that analogy he uses, the green pill.
Yes, the Mao Returns playlist.
He calls it symptomatic relief that could potentially lead to a bigger mindset shift. What's that about?
It's like taking an aspirin for a headache. It helps with the immediate pain,
Right.
but maybe it also makes you realize you need to drink more water or
Yeah.
change something more fundamental. The green pill gives an initial shift that might open the door to deeper changes.
Different levels of change, immediate and maybe more long-term.
Exactly.
He also says liberation comes before enlightenment in this system. Why that order?
Well, think about it. If you're constantly distracted or bogged down by, say, negative thoughts, it's hard to learn or achieve any kind of deeper awareness.
Right. Yeah, you're too busy fighting the noise.
So liberation, in this sense, might mean freeing yourself from those distractions, those limiting beliefs first.
Clearing the ground.
Yeah, clearing the ground so you actually have the space and clarity to build something new, like pursuing enlightenment.
Okay, that sets things up nicely for the next bit, navigating these conflicting worldviews.
Right, this is where it gets really interesting.
He mentions the NLP idea of a benevolent universe versus, say, Don Juan's view of a universe full of predators. Those seem totally opposite.
They do on the surface, yeah. But the NLP perspective seems to suggest there's an underlying justice, maybe, in life and the universe.
Even if it's not immediately obvious.
Exactly. He brings in ideas like karma, purification, concepts you find in world religions. It points towards a longer-term view of balance and consequences.
And he mentions the Christian prayer, deliver us from evil. Does that imply we have a choice about which reality we focus on?
That seems to be the suggestion. He lays out these three potential worlds, almost.
Oh.
There's the mixed world, good and bad. Then there's a world where you see predators everywhere, or maybe you become one yourself.
Right.
And then there's the perfect world, which is framed as basically benevolent. It's about where you put your focus, which reality you align with.
But he doesn't paint that perfect world as completely flawless, does he? There's that image.
The barrel of pure water with a spoon of tar. Yeah.
What's the point of that?
I think it's a dose of realism. It's saying, even if the fundamental nature of things is good or perfect, you'll still encounter negativity, challenges, imperfections. It's not about some naive utopia.
Got it. And how does this connect to other philosophies? He mentions Gautama Buddha.
The connection seems to be around that idea of freeing yourself from negative influences,
Okay.
finding joy, helping others, but still acknowledging that struggle is part of life. It's finding peace within that reality, much like Buddhist thought suggests.
And again, he stresses liberation from the lack of freedom first.
Yes, before striving for freedom. It's a recurring theme.
Why keep hammering that point?
I think it just highlights how crucial it is to deal with the immediate obstacles. First, the internal chatter, the external constraints. You have to remove the weeds before you plant the flowers.
Right. Now, here's a tricky one. He challenges the idealization of good.
Ah, yes. That's quite provocative.
He suggests good can be a departure from the divine, unlike outright evil, and could lead to bad things as well as good. What does that even mean?
It's complex. It seems to suggest that a very rigid, human-defined idea of good might actually create its own problems, its own limitations.
As opposed to.
As opposed to something more encompassing, maybe the divine includes things beyond our simple good-bad categories. It's moving beyond duality, perhaps.
Okay. Let's shift to belief and acceptance then. He doesn't say believe this, he says allow it or try it on.
Yeah, like trying on a coat. See if it fits, if it keeps you warm.
Why that experimental approach?
He goes back to the worldview being a tool, a model, not absolute truth.
The map is not the territory.
Exactly, that classic NLP idea.
Yeah.
The off-view is a map. Does it help you navigate your reality better? That's the test.
And he emphasizes it's less about how you view the world and more about how you react to it.
Yes. That distinction is crucial. You can hold a belief intellectually, but the real transformation comes in how you respond emotionally, behaviorally, when things actually happen. It's about your inner state, your inner response.
So it's about actively testing this model in your life. Does it make you feel better? Do you interact differently?
Precisely. It's very pragmatic.
Yeah.
Does it lead to real positive changes? Less suffering, more well-being? That's the measure.
He even compares it to trying out different religions or philosophies.
Right. Find what resonates, what yields results for you. It's personal validation through experience.
No one-size-fits-all answer.
Seems not.
And the ultimate test he proposes. Does it make you happier, lead to a more fulfilling life, without creating harmful dependencies?
That's a really grounded benchmark, isn't it? True well-being, genuine satisfaction, without needing unhealthy crutches. That's the goal.
Okay, let's talk about going back to the source, childhood, innate potential.
Ah, this is a fascinating part.
He says revisiting childhood, not fully regressing, but recalling that state helps quiet the internal chatter.
Yes, reconnecting with a natural state of joy and peace.
Why is that early state considered so powerful?
The idea is, before society and language fully shape us, we had a more direct, unfiltered experience of reality. Less mental clutter, less judgment, maybe more natural joy. Recalling it can give us a taste of that again.
He uses the term seeing for how young children perceive things and mentions a more fluid assembly point. Can you unpack that a bit?
Okay, assembly point is a term often associated with castaneta, but think of it like the focus point of your perception.
Like a spotlight.
Sort of. In adults, it's usually quite fixed, focused on the normal consensus reality. The idea is that in kids, it's more flexible, it can shift more easily, allowing them to perceive things differently, hence seeing.
And that's why we don't remember early childhood clearly, because the way we perceived was so different.
That's the suggestion. Our adult language-based mind struggles to access those pre-verbal, differently perceived experiences. The operating system was different, you could say.
He talks about a human matrix imposed through socialization.
Yeah, the web of shared beliefs, norms, rules that shape our reality.
And he thinks we can move beyond that to achieve a different kind of seeing.
That seems to be the potential offered by this path. Becoming aware of the matrix, the conditioning, and maybe, just maybe, stepping outside it to perceive things more directly, more fundamentally.
So the aim is tapping back into that innate joy, that different way of perceiving we had as kids.
Exactly. Reconnecting with the potential that's believed to be inherent in us.
Okay, let's look at the nature of perfect thinking. He makes a distinction in Russian. Is Junamager versus Jumak.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more like ruminating, that internal monologue.
The hamster wheel.
Yeah. While Yormos is closer to figuring something out, comprehending, often through images or insights, not just words.
A more holistic grasp.
I think so.
And he argues that the first kind, the internal dialogue, doesn't really bring new knowledge. It just recycle.
Because it tends to run in loops based on what you already know, your existing framework.
So how do we get new knowledge, according to him?
Through genuine interest, first off, then concentration, deep focus, maybe even across different, seemingly unrelated areas, and then allowing insights to kind of bubble up, and it's not always linear or predictable.
The aha moment.
Precisely. That flash of understanding that often comes when you stop forcing it.
It feels more organic.
Yes.
He even brings in the subconscious soul spirit guiding the search.
Which adds another layer, suggesting it's not just an intellectual process. Deeper parts of us might be involved in seeking understanding.
I liked his Harry Potter analogy, the Felix Felicis potion.
The liquid luck, yeah.
Taking weird, illogical steps that somehow leave you right where you need to go. How does that fit?
It perfectly illustrates that nonlinear aspect of injus. Sometimes the path to insight isn't straightforward. You follow intuition, take an odd turn, and suddenly things click.
He also connects this to being toxic. The more toxic, the harder it is to find answers.
Meaning, the more your mind is cluttered with negativity, limiting beliefs,
You're right.
the less receptive you are to genuine insights or helpful information. It's like static interfering with the signal again.
So the detoxification through ishful thinking clears the channel.
That's the idea. Makes you more open, more able to receive or recognize useful information.
And he stresses a comfortable, non-forced approach, not like cramming for an exam.
Definitely. True understanding needs a certain amount of mental space and relaxation. You can't force an aha moment.
It takes energy, he says, and you need to be open to understanding.
Yes, that openness is key. You have to be willing to engage, to let the new information in, and allow your mind to work on it.
And his big claim, all correctly understood, spiritual or philosophical paths lead to this perfect state, this freedom from negativity.
It suggests a kind of universal core to wisdom traditions, that deep down, they're all pointing towards a similar state of inner peace and clarity, which he labels perfect.
Okay, let's get practical. How does this apply? He uses that example of two identical buildings.
Right, but the utilities work much better in one than the other,
Why?
because of the intentions and mindset of the workers who installed them.
Ah, so it's not the system, it's the people within it.
Or at least the mindset behind the actions profoundly impacts the outcome, even with the same materials or plans. It emphasizes individual agency and consciousness.
And that links to understanding root causes, not just blaming the Oyas, the housing authority, the bureaucracy.
Exactly. Look deeper than the surface problem or the easy scapegoat. Try to understand the underlying dynamics, the human factors.
He talks about getting rid of the tiredness of thinking. That constant internal noise is exhausting.
It really is. And escaping that, he suggests, involves those techniques, maybe revisiting childhood states, finding ways to quiet the chatter.
Creating mental stillness.
Yes.
And he points out there's actual enjoyment in using the mind well in that Ojiga mode.
Definitely. When you're genuinely figuring things out, understanding, solving problems, it's engaging, satisfying. It feels good.
He distinguishes between desire and intention. Why is intention more powerful for change?
Desire can be passive, just wishing. Intention implies a commitment, a focused will, a readiness to act to make it happen.
More directed energy.
I think so.
And the classic wisdom. Focus on what you can control, recognize what you can't.
Crucial for sanity, isn't it? Put your energy where it makes a difference. Let go of the rest. Saves a lot of frustration.
He suggests revisiting positive childhood memories as a way to regain equilibrium. How does that work in the moment?
Just recalling those feelings, the joy, the peace, the lack of burden, can actually shift your current emotional state.
Like tapping into an old energy source.
Kind of, yeah. Reminding yourself that state of well-being is possible, is within you.
And then he says the advanced stage of faith is basically just being like a young child again.
Yeah, it's almost anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Fearless, open, perceiving differently.
It reframes growth not as adding complexity, but maybe removing barriers to get back to something simple, something innate.
Exactly, a return to openness.
He even ventures into potentially reconnecting with those childhood seeing abilities, maybe communicating with other beings.
Yes, it touches on more esoteric possibilities there. Deeper connection, perhaps non-ordinary reality.
But with a warning, right? Be discerning.
Yes, focus on connections that align with the perfect positive orientation. The universe is diverse, he implies, so choose your connections wisely.
Which brings it back again to the internal world. That's your domain.
Consistently the core message. Your power lies in managing your inner state, thoughts, feelings, reactions.
And an interesting side effect, genuine growth attracts others seeking guidance.
Like attracts like, perhaps. Authentic change has a natural pull, it seems. Creates a positive influence.
And the reminder, you didn't create the world. Calm down. Focus on your path.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off. Engage with your life, do your work, but don't feel you have to carry the weight of the whole world.
He hints at potential for wider societal change, too, from communities based on these ideas.
An optimistic outlook, individual change leading to collective shifts towards something more harmonious.
And acknowledges cycles positive change can follow difficult times.
A message of hope, really. Growth often comes through challenges.
So summing it all up, the goal seems to be shaping your attitude, your place, your reactions.
Not your inside.
Right, starting inside, maybe reconnecting with those earlier states.
All leading towards seeing more deeply, not just thinking, but really comprehending.
For personal evolution.
Absolutely. It's a whole package.
Yeah.
Inner work, perspective shift, reconnecting with potential.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Assesian thinking, the big takeaway seems to be this shift.
Yeah, from just reacting automatically to consciously understanding.
Taking ownership of your inner world.
Definitely. And maybe exploring that connection back to how you perceived things as a child. It's a journey of self-discovery, freeing yourself from old limits.
And for you, listening in, hopefully this exploration gives you some tools, some perspectives.
Yeah, for navigating information, navigating life, really. Ways to gain knowledge, consider different views, maybe spark some of those aha moments for your own growth.
Okay, here's a final thought to leave you with. Take a moment to consider your own thinking. Are there patterns that feel, well, restrictive, maybe even toxic?
And think about what one small step, maybe something simple, even intuitive, you could take today, just to start that little detox.
Embrace that curiosity, stay open. Maybe even just take 60 seconds to recall a really happy, simple memory from when you were very young. See what happens.
You might find some surprising wisdom just waiting there.